I didn't mean to do that. Oh, Shalago. He is the twin to Huitzilopochtli, no, not Huitzilopochtli, to Quetzalcoatl. I'm not saying these names right. But he was shaped like a dog. He was the god. He was another god of death. He was also the god of twins and disfigurements. He also guarded the sun when it became nighttime, so he guarded it on his journeys. I don't know. He's not that bad. You may think he's bad, but he's not that bad. So as you noticed that, like I had repeats. So I've mentioned a god of death or underworld twice now. A lot of times you'll see repeats of certain things with different, like having particular, like one maybe a god of fertility, while one is like young women or something. But they have multiple gods for multiple things, like because they're just the way their religion works. So they had so many gods for every little bit of their lives, and so it got complicated. Koyo Lashwiki. So this is the stone tablet they have now is not. I don't think they repainted it, but they like looked at it and like, oh, there's faint pigments of yellow. So this is the recoloration of it. But like when they first found it, it was not this bright. But she cut off her mother's head because she was jealous. This was who I was talking about when I mentioned how Quetzalcoatl's head was cut off. There's an interesting story of how Quetzalcoatl was born. A magic feather ball like came to Quetzalcoatl and she like put it in her like apron or whatever, and then she gave birth to Quetzalcoatl. Just kind of, those things happen. And then but then Koyo, I'm just gonna shorten that. Koyo Lashwiki, that's her mother. Quetzalcoatl is her mother. And she was like, why did you have another kid? That's not right. And she actually has 400 brothers. And so she like goes and attacks her mother and cuts off her head. And then Quetzalcoatl's like, that's not very cool, and then goes up and cuts her limbs off and stuff. And this is one version of how she became the moon. And her head became the moon, and then a lot of the brothers went and became stars because he killed them. But this is, as you can see, she's like cut in several places because she got cut into pieces. So when next time you look up at the moon and stars, it's a bunch of just body parts. Have fun with that. Mamira Shochito? It's hard. She was sister to Huitzilopochtli, and they have a story about how the Aztecs, before they settled down where they were, how they were traveling, trying to find the new land. And Huitzilopochtli was like, I'm going to be gone for a little bit. My sister here, she's in charge. And so he left. And then when he came back, people were like, please, we don't want her anymore. And pretty much he was like, okay. And he had her go to sleep. And they all just left her. And she got really upset about this. She eventually gave birth to a son. And he has his own story, and that continues on. But she's the goddess of like snakes and scorpions and other poisonous things. Kopil, that's her son. Why is he important? Well, he was taught by his mother, like, these people, they're all terrible. They like, well, what they did to me, they left me behind, and like, so she lets him know all this. And so he runs ahead of this group and goes to another place. He's like, guys, the people that are coming, they're terrible. They're like liars. They'll murder you. Like, don't trust them. And then Huitzilopochtli like sees him and he's like, no. And he cuts out his heart and he throws it. He tells the people that he was leading, he was like, when you see an eagle eating a heart on a cactus, or in some versions it's a snake he's eating, the eagle is eating, that's how you know you found your home. And because the cactus sprung out from the heart, and this is how they found it. So this is them finding their homeland, and so because they cut out his heart and just threw it. So Xiuhua, she's the goddess of fertility, one of them. That's pretty much all she is, but she was important to them. So. Omoteotl, this is actually a name, it's the god of duality, but there's also, they break them down into like two different people. So I believe Omoshlatl and Omoshlatsi, if I'm saying them right, okay. and one's a guy, one's a girl. They ended up being like they're the creators of everything, but they're not as popular as like Quetzalcoatl or Huitzilopochtli, which I think is interesting because like, yeah, they created the universe, but I like that war god better. Like we don't need them. Like so it's as time went on, like this focus shifted away from the creators of their whole like land and area. And another interesting thing, the Aztecs believed this was the fifth world and fifth sun that they were living on. Like, so the world had been destroyed many times before, and like, so they were chill. Like the first time, the guys were like, nope, fiery death. Nope, you're all drowning. Nope, and they just kept doing it until they're like, this is a good one. This is a good one. Yeah. Xochitl, another goddess of like fertility and sexual power. That's what it is. Yeah, so she was definitely for the ladies. Yeah. So it's good to see like they didn't like diminish the women. Like so you can tell from like this, like obviously there was a powerful like women god, so like that means they actually cared about the positions of the women and like oh now it won't let me click it again. Tezcatlipoca, he was a big deal for a while, and he actually eventually becomes the moon. And the story behind this is interesting, I think. And I'm going to talk about the other god first. Nahuatl. So he's this guy. He's the guy in the center of the calendar system. And pretty much when they created the fifth world, they're like, okay, we need a sun, guys. And this time the sun is going to be a combination of fire, air, earth, water, but like, okay, but we need someone like two people to volunteer for us so that we can like get a sun. And so the other guy, he was like, I'm awesome, I'm glorious, like this will just get me more famous and more glorious, so yeah, I'm doing it. And everyone else was like, okay, I don't know what to do. And eventually this guy volunteered. And he's like, he has scabs everywhere, he's like sick, he like doesn't have that cool attire, he's like made out of reeds. This other guy has pretty feathers, like he's not that cool. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. If it's needed to be done, I'll do it. So he's a very humble guy. So they spend a while purifying themselves and getting ready, and eventually the time comes, and the other guy's like, I'm gonna get gold and all this other stuff. He's like, all I can give are like some scabs and some bloody thorns, so that's what I'm gonna give, which is kind of gross, but that's how they did things. And so then they're like, okay, here's time for you guys to become like the sun and stuff. He's like, hey, what do you need me to do? And they're like, you gotta jump into the fire. And Tezcatlipoca was like, so like sometimes he approached the fire and he's like, guys, I know I volunteered to do this, but I don't got the guts. And they're like, okay. And then, but Nahuatl, he just went up and went in the fire. So the other guy felt like he was like, okay, I can't be beaten by this dude, and so he went in. But because Nahuatl had so much courage to go into the fire first and burn up, he became the sun, while a really bright light over in the sky, while Tezcatlipoca only became the moon. So very dim, not as bright, but still there. Which is just how I've already come across two differentiating myths about how the moon came to be. So it shows how different times go on. I like both versions. I can't pick a favorite. I think both are interesting, but it shows how important to them, how it being humble and courageous is way better than just having flashy things. So I think it's important to look at the gods because if you can tell what they cared about. Otherwise, they wouldn't. Why would there be a god of something they don't care about? Because that makes no sense. Also, and you also can see in their different rituals. So seeing someone like have their heart like ripped out of their chest and it's like still beating, like, okay, that's gross, but it made sense because that's what Huitzilopochtli did, and that's how they helped help their gods keep strength to keep on fighting. like because they believed that if they didn't do this, then their gods would like get weak and die, and then they would all be dead. So one story says like if we don't keep sacrificing people, then the sun will die because he won't have enough energy to keep going on. Actually, some people say that Nana Watson is a different form of Quetzalcoatl, which just makes Quetzalcoatl more popular. I don't really see where they got that, but it's written down in some books, so they saw that at one point. So you can see how things differed as like time went on. So Quetzalcoatl, she's important, she's Mother Earth, but that story, the daughter of her daughter's head being coming to the moon, that's maybe not as popular as saying some other dude saying, no, Quetzalcoatl, no, he's actually not Watson, and he became the sun, which means the other guy's the moon, okay? So you can see how they differed over how time brought different stories into different spotlights, but they were all both popular in different times. Here's the Mayans. Okay, sorry, time check. Yeah. So here are their gods. So this is Kukulkan. He is the Mayan version of Quetzalcoatl, feathered serpent. So as you can see in all three, they all had feathered serpents, which means that's very popular, very important deity to them in that area. Chok, he's like Tlaloc, so the god of rain. So you know, rain's also important, water is important. So we can see like already there's similarities to the different deities that were around there. Yumi Kopsab, he was the god of corn, except for he wasn't as cool because he was very much affected by the god of rain and the god of death. So he was just kind of like the symbol of corn, but like he couldn't control how well the corn did because that was based on whether it rained or if the death god came and just straight up killed all the crops. So he was there, but he wasn't as cool as some other gods. He was very affected by what other gods did. Apush, he is. There's also different names for a lot of these, so if like you have heard some of these before and they don't seem right to you because different things happened and people were like, but I think his name is really this. And so he's the god of death. Ishtab, I don't know if you remember this from the video, how they mentioned the IX thing was female, so you can see it even in her name, it's a girl god. So, but she was actually the goddess of suicide. And people believe that she would help them guide their souls to heaven. And one source what I read was that it wasn't uncommon for suicide to happen because they believed that they would still be guided to heaven. And so that was. I don't know, you had some more questions? Well, I saw your hand go like this. I couldn't tell if that was a question or not. Isha, goddess of medicine, which is why she's pouring it on the ground. Okay. Just sometimes I think the pictures that they have are kind of. But no, she's the goddess of medicine. Shabalanke and Hunapu, these guys are twins. Hunapu is definitely the more popular of the two twins. And so now we have twins in both Maya and Aztec because we have the twins of Quetzalcoatl and Xolotl, and now Hunapu and Shabalanke. But pretty much the other brother, not Hunapu, he was there. He was kind of a sidekick, but like he saved his brother's life. He was there. But a lot of the stories really are focused on Hunapu. I mean, they go through these things together. So this Hunapu and that is, they get into a lot of mischief, but like they're very good. They're very popular. And Akan. He's the god of drinking, like beer, wine stuff. That's him. Very important. Gotta have that alcohol. Bakab is actually 4 different gods. This is just the symbol for them, which is why I picked that. And pretty much they're one for each direction. So north, east, south, west. They help. Sometimes it would be seen like holding like a table, and they also are for dwelling with water, so like lake or pond. That's also a sign for them. Shwa. Oh, he was the god of marketplace. Sorry, I blanked out on the word market. So trading and stuff. So it showed that Mayans were actually they traded a lot with their neighbors. Sometimes it's easy to forget all the other different groups that were around in that area, like the Chichimecs. Like, okay, that meant, even though that sounds like it's one place, but it's actually like 5 different people. Like the Aztecs were considered Chichimecs, but there's also like 4 other people, and they're like, oh, but this group is the real Chichimecs. Like they're like the true ones, and like these other guys also get looped in because like Chichimec meant like traveler kind of. And it's kind of interesting because sometimes they'll tell stories of how the Mayans left and like became the Aztecs, but that's not really like that's like some stories like, oh yeah, see the Mayans left, and then see how the Aztecs, how they were travelers at first, and then that I don't see the. I mean, yeah, it's interesting, but like not quite right. A lot of times you'll see different gods associated with the Venus star or the dark version of the Venus star, like blood moon versus the whole moon. The Venus star was, I'm kind of surprised at how popular it was. It's like, oh yes, he was Venus star. Venus star was so cool, guys. Like, Venus star is very important. The Mayans built temples that could keep track and accurately map the path that Venus took. And so that's really interesting. So like, think about like, okay, they didn't seem that advanced, yet they could track stars and they could do this and they could line up this, and like, so you can tell that they were really advanced.
They help in the agrarian planting, knowing when to plant crops and such by the time of the year, like tracking time like
that. Yep. yeah, they did. They were good at that. And I wanted to say special thanks to Senora and Dr. Michael Smith, who was an expert on specifically Aztecs and helped answer a lot of questions. But I also wanted to mention they even did like their religion stuff differently. So Mayan focused more on bloodletting rather than just the sacrifice, like actually killing someone. So blood was like more into more Mayan stuff than Aztec, and Aztec was more like the killing part. But like both of them had both blood was very important to continuing on. And even like so the Aztecs believed in complete world restarts, but the Mayans still believed that they were like the 5th kind of human there was. So they first the gods were like, okay, let's make some things, because they made all these animals. We're like, wow, all of these animals can't praise us though. That's really lame. So we're gonna create like something else, okay? And so they were like, okay, let's use mud. That seems like a good idea. And then but the mud was too stupid, and they're like, well, that's stupid. And they just destroyed the mud people. And then they're like, okay, let's carve one out of wood, because that's a sturdier thing, better than mud. And so they carved one person out of wood, but the wood people were not good. And so like, okay, we're gonna send all these things after you, and it's very violent. Like a bunch of things just went up to try to destroy them. The wood people tried to climb onto their houses, but the roofs collapsed, and then all these animals attacked them, and then eventually they ended up becoming what's known as monkeys. And like they did different things like that, and they're like, okay, well, I don't like this one's still not smart enough, and then like those become dogs. And then eventually, finally, this version of humans were created, and they're like, oh, thank you, you guys are so awesome. And they're like, yeah, we are. And so then they eventually were the final humans. And the final humans were made out of corn. So once again, showing how important corn is to that civilization, because the people that they finally were became from corn. Interesting. So it just showed how important that food was to them.
So they didn't say that the next level came out of monkeys, so they don't share that same story.
No, no. Monkeys were failed humans.
Yeah.
That's why they look so similar, but they're not the same. So see, even in that myth, it shows like explanations for natural phenomena. Like why do we look so similar to that? Failed humans. That's why we look like monkeys. I mean, I even reading about these myths. I slowly realized things that I didn't know. Like they must have had dogs over there, because there's several dog-based stories. I didn't think dogs came from over there. Or the jaguar skin. A lot of pictures show them having jaguar skin. It shows how important the jaguar is to them. I wouldn't mess with the jaguar anywhere, any time of day. And they were like, yep, the jaguars are awesome. Yeah. So here's some sources. A lot of these are pictures. And those are some books that I read. So focus a lot of these are on Aztecs actually, but so I think those are some good books to read if you want to get into it. The Recreating Primordial Time. It's a lot about the calendar system and on what meant what. There's tons of pictures of how that worked, and how different things, how you could read it. I'm not good at reading them still. Like if you showed me a picture, be like, okay, what does that mean? I'd be like, it's a number there. Got you there. But yeah. So I don't. If we have any questions, I don't know what the mouse is. I hope it didn't get started.
I have a question, but you kind of answered it.
For the gods of the different civilizations, locations,
So, like, especially the Olmecs, like, do you know anything about, like, if it's just certain areas have the gods, or was it pretty, like, in general, it was pretty much the same?
it was pretty much the same. Like they all had certain major gods. Like they all agreed. Like, yep, this god, awesome. This god, that. And then, but like as different areas that are like, let's say like different. Let's see if I can go back to that. I was gonna go to the bathtub. Okay, so the Aztecs, so like their empire, this is their capital. So the people down over here probably aren't quite the same beliefs. Probably because the Aztec would take over different groups that were nearby. So there's no way that like these people are probably had the exact same gods because they're like, okay, but I really like this god, so now he's like a minor god, right? Right. So maybe they favored this one minor god more than these people did, just because they were more familiar. But since this is an area where like the Aztecs didn't conquer, so maybe the people on these borders had more similar gods to them than on this coast did. But they all had like the same basic gods, but it's when it gets to the minor ones, the specific ones, that things probably varied to people. I don't know if you guys want to, but there's the video that you guys didn't watch. I don't know where that is. It's this way. Do you guys want to hear what Aztec sounded like? Sure. There's like a giant pause, like, not really, but okay.
Montezuma ran a vibrant empire from one of the world's largest cities, with an amazing headdress. But unlike his Mayan neighbors, he didn't leave us books and monuments full of sentences. And yet we know the Aztecs called him Huehuetlatoani, not emperor, that he didn't call chocolate chocolate, and that Montezuma is not how he said his name. No, that's not it either. After college, I went through linguistics withdrawal, so I tore through any languagey book I could, including Empires of the Word. Right away, there's this epic encounter between Spanish conquistadors and the Aztec emperor. But if we see a people inevitably about to be wiped from history, this book saw two high cultures meeting across a great divide, each telling their own story in their own words. I lowered the book. Their own words. We know how Montezuma spoke? Turns out we do. Partly because while some brought swords to the New World, others reached for pens and informants. They wrote histories and dictionaries and rough grammars with helpful tips about Aztec, well, the Mexican language, náhuatl. Tips like when you see two consonants in a row, pronounce both. A house was tali, not calle, like if this was Spanish. Tips like there are only 4 vowels, a, e, I, o. So if you spot an u, it's really just an o in disguise. The word for flower is xochi. Vowels can be long, too. A, e, I, o. A flower isn't just xochi, it's xochi. Spelling is clunky, but it works if we see it as Spanish letters layered over simple Aztec sets. Sa, se, si, so, ka, ke, ki, ko, sa, se, si, so. Linguists would have done a better job, but bygones. Above all, the old grammars show off the structure of náhuatl. Nouns attach affixes. Oh, do they ever? Nantli, nantintli, donan, donansi. titonansi, tonansine. Verbs use incorporation, jamming things we call different words into a single verby body. Niqua, nitlatwa, nitamatqua. The grammar only gets more fun from there. But there's a lot these pre-modern grammars don't tell us. Take a concrete example, an important one, chocolate. We suspect it must have come from chocolat, bitter water, but there's no trace of that in the early literature. In classical times, the base word for the bean and the drink was kakawat. To sort out all these missing words and sounds, let's look into Montezuma's future and his past. Montezuma's Aztecs also had books, Amochtli. I was always told Amochtli were full of pictographs, not real writing, but experts are taking a second look. Spell the word siwat, woman, as you like. Here's how one glyph does, with 2 bars. The bars stand for the syllable wa. Compare that to the way colonial writers spelled the sound for awakat, wake, no siwao. So this isn't a vowel u, it's an H plus U representing the consonant w. But our best evidence comes from modern vowels. Yep, people still speak Nahuatl. They may call it Masewali, meaning commoner, or even just Mexican, but they help pin down its sounds. Those UHs do indeed correspond to woods. There really are just 4 vowels, and this 4th vowel drifts freely between O and U, which explains those earlier spelling variations. An elephant in the room, or jaguar in the temple, but this TL all over the place is ka. You'll even hear 2 K sounds, as in skull, kali, plus a tricky made by rounding your lips, qua, huica. This sound can even end a syllable, te. The spelling here is awkward and inconsistent. Today, I'm going with this one. Tie all this pronunciation analysis together and we can dig up a glimpse of what Montezuma's name sounded like in his day. Moteksoma, Moteksoma. But out of respect, you might want to add the polite suffix, Moteksomatsi. Did you hear that? Sin, not seem. Certain consonants were voiceless at the end of a syllable. Try this one, nokakawa, with a voiced w in the middle and a voiceless w at the end. L's are particularly noticeable there, not altepet, but altepet. But there were still too many unknowns. Remember your favorite sound? Well, some speakers ditch it. They say nawat or nawa. Who's right? Or take this H before consonant. Colonial texts imprecisely called it a saltillo, a skip. Come on, the idea wasn't even invented yet. Today, most people say mexica. A few say mexica. Which one's older? Zoom out from Nahuatl to see its siblings, cousins, parents, grandparents. Carefully comparing them for patterns, linguists prove they're part of a Euro-Aztecan family that stretches from Central America up to the western US. Linguists, including this guy, Worf, placed Nahuatl within that history. Worf worked out that an early T sound changed into, oh, so Nahuatl is older. Wait. Later linguists showed this change applied to the entire Nahuatl branch. Nahuatl and Nawa were the innovations. So keep practicing your... That pesky saltillo, that sound you lop off words when you bar them, even if it's the Aztec name for themselves, that was even more elusive. But hard work showed a syllable final stop, like a K or a T, turning into a catch in your throat before becoming the popular sound. In the old days, they said, mexicat, tlatoli, tlatoani. Oh, and they stressed the second to last syllable, huicat, wehi, tlatoli.